People who work in gun shops, what are some red flags you've seen that made you deny a sale? As they were talking with me about various aspects of the purchase, they would occasionally consult with the person that was with them. There was no person with them. Story 2. I can tell you one time when I almost got denied for purchasing a rifle. It was a bolt-action .308 made by Savage. The rifle came with a scope. Not great, but just a little extra over their standard rifle in that package. The store was over an hour away, and so I invited my younger brother to keep me company during the ride. He was 17 or 18 at the time. As I was wrapping up the sale, we had friendly banter back and forth with the salesman. And I was talking about videos of several men pegging pop cans at 1000M with this gun. And my brother, for whatever stupid reasons I can only attribute to being young and dumb, says, "Yeah, we need to test it on some people." Dumbfounded, I just looked at him and I was just thinking, what the heck, why would you say that? The salesman was understanding and very kindly replied, "You need to be careful with that language. I can refuse this sale to you." I politely apologized and reprimanded my brother for saying something that ridiculous. Story 3. I had one guy who was a resident from another state come in and say that he wanted to buy a CZ-P07. I told him I legally can't sell pistols to out-of-state residents, and he got pissed and stormed off. Maybe 20 minutes later, he comes back with his brother, who was an in-state resident, and as soon as his brother walks up to the counter, he points to the exact same gun and says, "I want to buy that one." He didn't even ask to hold it or look at it first. That's a clear straw purchase. I told them to kick rocks. I'm not going to break the law for you. I had another guy try to buy a shotgun and answered yes to having been convicted of a felony. I asked him if he was actually a felon. You'd be surprised how many guys accidentally checked the wrong box. This idiot looked at me and said, "Yeah, is that a problem, dude?" Yes, it's a problem. Story 4. Gun store I worked at had a varied and diverse clientele. Usually that meant that more law-abiding citizens were looking to purchase firearms, but the usual wacko or two would come by. The one I remember clearest was the guy who came in and wanted to see only 2 types of firearms, a pistol grip shotgun and a large frame revolver. As I was asking him what he wanted those specific types of firearms for, since they aren't really the greatest for home defense or personal protection, he tells me that he wants a revolver because it won't leave evidence at the scene of a shooting. I noped out of that one and told him we didn't have the type of equipment he was in search of. I passed along his name to the local police, but nothing ever came of it. Story 5. A friend of mine sold guns at a sporting goods store a while ago. He had to deny a guy a gun sale of an R15 because the customer was wearing a bulletproof vest. People don't just walk around with bulletproof vests unless they're looking for trouble. Story 6. I used to work as management in Walmart, and as such, had to be licensed to do any job in the store, including firearm sales. There had been many cases of background checks not clearing, which is normal. One that I made a judgment call to refuse, however, was the guy who kept joking that he most certainly was not, under any circumstances, going to use this .22 rifle to hit his wife. You'd get all sorts of rednecks who think they're hilarious while they're gearing up for the next hunting season. But by the third time he brought up not hitting his wife, I just shut down the entire process. Had to have him removed from the building after his breakdown turned verbally aggressive. Story 7. I denied a handful of sales in 2 years. 1. Attempted straw purchase, not malicious. This was usually a wife buying for her husband for a gift, but had no idea what to get. It's legal, but a little sketchy. 2. Illegal purchase by out-of-state residents. This happened the most frequently. You can only purchase from an FFL if you are a resident of this state or one that adjoins it. First-time buyers are frequently not aware of this. 3. Stank of substances. Could not have accurately filled out a 4,473. 4. Could not shoulder a weapon. Would have posed a massive danger to himself or others. The people who raise behavioral red flags almost exclusively shop for handguns, which my store didn't sell, or are just looking because they are too poor to afford even a $200 12-go. Story 8. To preface this, an FFL or employee of the FFL should deny a sale if they have reasonable suspicion that the buyer is a prohibited person or attempting to straw purchase. Reasonable meaning evidence-based. Firearms can be sold to citizens and permanent residents, and those with visas under specific circumstances I never had to deal with IERC. I did deal with the first 2 groups, straw purchasers. Why they were straw purchasing varied. The 4 most memorable were probably the cop, the dumb group of kids, the Mexicans, and the offended dudes. The group of kids was 4 young people, 2 male, 2 female, one of whom wanted to purchase a firearm. He eventually settled on an AR-556. Nothing was really unusual up to that point, just the first-time gun buyer questions. Until I watched the other male slip the buyer a couple $100s in cash from one of the female's purses. To clarify, male 2 accepted cash from female 1 and casually gave it to male 1, the buyer. I was so astonished at this occurrence that I bought time, and the store manager reviewed the security camera and confirmed what I saw. Denied AF. Offended dudes. It's legal to buy your wife a gun, but if your wife is standing there and you won't let her, She isn't willing to fill out the paperwork. It's going to get denied because it looks like a straw purchase because she has a record. This applies both ways. If you don't tell me it's a gift, I have no other option than to deny it. If you do tell me it's a gift, I still have to make that judgment call, but it's far harder to have a reasonable suspicion. The cop, by far the most memorable. A woman comes in, very businesslike, and asks to see a .300 blackout. I ask her what she wants to use it for. She answers target practice. I ask her why she's going after .300 blackout for target practice when there are cheaper options available. She responds she wants a .300 blackout. I show her a Ruger American Ranch in .300 blackout. No, I show her an R-pattern rifle with mossy oak camo on it. Closer. She starts texting someone. I show her a deed. She texts some more, takes a picture, texts some more, and says she wants it. D-damn nied. I get a photocopy of her ID, have her fill out the front of the 4,473, sign box 14, and date box 15. I then inform her of the denial, and she leaves immediately. After coming back from lunch, I get stopped by my manager. He tells me that the woman was a cop and that the woman's husband called and expressed how angry his wife was. A few minutes after the husband called, the woman's partner called, and it went something like this. Hi, I'm Officer X with Y-City PD. My partner, Officer Z, was denied a firearm sale at your store earlier today, and oh, you thought it was a straw purchase, didn't you? So I don't drive through that city anymore. But it would have been legally indefensible for me to sell her a firearm at that point. I did my job and there was no retaliation. I actually received a good job from my manager. Mexicans are like offended white dudes. It's a general set of behaviors, the first of which is an enthusiasm for Chrome Colt 1911S and .38 Super Auto. Because of the amount of agriculture in the area, we get plenty of migrant workers. Most can't buy guns, but those who hold us citizenships or are permanent residents can. Not being able to properly fill out the 4,473, even when it was in Spanish and being explained to them by a Spanish-speaking employee, would result in a denial. Can't do paperwork. I can't sell you a gun. Mainly this demographic was memorable because it was harder to discern who was buying the firearm, as they like to bring their whole family shopping. After 4 of the 7 people present have handled it, who's really the buyer? Couple question 11A, A and I denials. State legal still makes you a prohibited person. Never had to deal with, I'm going to hit people with this, but that would have been an instant denial. Story 9. Oh, ho, ho. 1. I can answer. This was at my old job. So this man comes in at 9:30, 30 minutes before closing. He has his 2 kids with him, and both of them look uncomfortable and won't make eye contact. The man is acting a little strange, too, and I feel pretty uneasy about it already, but I chalk all that up to maybe they're just a socially awkward family. So, as we're doing the paperwork, the man is telling me about his life and what all is going on in it currently. Then he says he's divorcing his wife and starts complaining about all the things he doesn't like about her. His kids still haven't spoken a word or looked up, but they're so uncomfortable at this point that they're constantly shifting their arms and legs. I pretend to keep filling out the form while listening closely to what the man is saying. He mumbles under his breath, almost where I couldn't hear him. Sometimes I could just kill her. I was an 18-year-old girl, completely alone on that entire half of the store, and I was flipping my absolute crap inside. I pretended not to hear him and kept filling out the form while actually canceling it. Then I said, okay, I'm at the point where I need a manager's approval for the form to go through. 1 second and let me get him and get the gun out of the back room. So I go to the manager's office and I tell my manager, there's a man wanting to buy a gun and I think he's going to kill his wife with it. He says, okay, let me handle it and you stay in here until I come back. By the time he comes back, it's already half an hour past when my shift ended. He said he had to get the police to escort the man out of the store, and I believe he was arrested, but I can't entirely remember since it was a good many years ago. That memory still scares me, because what if I hadn't have heard him? I was the only thing standing between him buying a gun that night to shoot his wife. I still wonder about whatever happened to them. Story 10. Someone being coached by a person they are with, or apparently over the phone, regarding the firearm or the purchase procedure. Someone lying about being a citizen, border state. Someone who looked wrong. Things like face tattoos and wearing all the same color of clothing from head to foot. While those aren't illegal to do or have, I'm not selling to someone wearing a gangbanger's uniform. Anyone intoxicated, anyone behaving in an odd way, anyone who is apparently angry or in some kind of elevated emotional state, wanting a firearm for a bullcrap reason, say trying to buy a 9mm handgun for hunting, anyone who seems like they will be blatantly unsafe